6-year-old Dennis Martin was on a camping trip with his older brother, father, and grandfather at the Great Smoky Mountains National Park. The camping trip happened to be a family tradition for his family, which meant there were other families present for the trip. The family had hiked from Cates Cove all the way to the Appalachian Trail in the course of a few days, but it was on June 14th around 2:30 p.m. where everything would go wrong. Dennis, his brother, and other children from the other families wanted to play a prank on the adults by hiding in bushes and surprising them while they walked by. His father was in on the prank, but as his father watched him run behind a bush, he didn't know that it would be the last time he would ever see his son. As the prank was played out, Dennis was the only child who didn't jump out. After 5 minutes, when all the children returned to the campsite, Dennis was nowhere to be found, so his father went to go search for him. In a panic, he ran for 2 miles, and after searching for several hours without any trace of Dennis, they called in help from the park rangers. The area he was hiding in was next to steep slopes, and wild animals such as copperhead snakes, bears, hogs, and bobcats did inhabit the area. Over 1,400 volunteers, along with the help of the National Guard and Green Berets, searched the area for days, but efforts were only made more complicated because on the first night of the search, the area received 3 inches of rain, causing extreme heavy fog the next day and washing away any footprints that were left. Except child-sized footprints were found leading to a stream where they disappeared. The curious part of the clue was one foot was bare while the other one had a shoe on, and also a shoe was found nearby. Oddly enough, the footprints were dismissed as being Dennis's because there was a Boy Scout who was helping search for him. You think that the Boy Scout in question would have brought up a missing shoe or simply could have been questioned, but I couldn't find any further information regarding that. Sadly, after searching for 56 square miles, the search was abandoned on June 29th and officially closed in mid-September. Theories on what happened to Dennis, well, he passed away the first night of being lost due to exposure, which is what the park rangers thought. Another one was that he was attacked and carried off by a hungry animal. Of course, there was an abduction theory. This theory was brought to life by another family camping the day he disappeared, as they claimed to have heard a sickening scream and saw a rough-looking man running up the trail from where the scream had came from and proceeding to speed off in a white car. The theory, of course, was dismissed due to lack of evidence. Until this day, other than the potential of the missing shoe, no other trace of Dennis has ever been found. This is Jared Adidero. This little boy went missing over a circumstance he never should have been in and his own father never consented to. His father Alan owned a commercial hotel called the Powderay River Resort with his brother in the Arapaho and Roosevelt National Forest. Staying at the resort was a Christian Singles Network group. They asked Alan if they could bring Jared to a fish hatchery, and although reluctant at first, he agreed, under the condition that they only brought him to the hatchery. Unfortunately, the group didn't keep their word. During the hike to the hatchery, for some reason, 11 group members decided to take a 15-mile detour hike up to the Big South Trail. The group split up for the difference of fast and slow-paced hikers. The group that Jared ended up with ended up losing him because he ran ahead. He ended up running into a couple of fishermen to start a chat with them, but the two thought nothing of it because they saw the other members of the group nearby and assumed that they knew where he was at. Sadly, that would be the last time that Jared would ever be seen alive. Some people from the group reportedly heard a slight scream that sounded more like a child's playful scream, and although unclear, it was about this time they realized he was missing. They only searched for about an hour before giving up, heading back to the resort and reported his disappearance to his father. Alan broke down, beating his own chest and screaming, "They lost my baby, they lost my baby," as he got into his vehicle to go search for his child. The resort manager called the sheriff and a search and rescue team was deployed. However, the search itself did not go well. The helicopter that was deployed crashed, luckily without any fatalities. The media didn't help things either, with at one point 17 satellite trucks lined up with news anchors trying to interview people and psychics claiming to know where he was at. Dive teams even searched nearby rivers, but up to this point they were unable to locate the young boy. It wasn't for 4 years some of Jared's remains would be located, a human molder and a large piece of a fractured skull. Also found was a sweater, a pair of blue trousers, and Disney's Tarzan sneakers, the same sneakers that he had been wearing the day that he went missing. After DNA tests were done, it was clear that the remains were 100% Jared's. Two theories of what happened to Jared was an animal attack, although the markings on his clothes didn't line up with one. The other theory was that he was abducted. His trousers were turned inside out, but no suspects has ever been identified. The story doesn't end yet, however, as a man claiming to be Jared years later kept harassing Alan to the point he needed to pull a restraining order. I couldn't find any information on whether or not justice was brought upon those who lost Jared, but whether or not the intentions were good, they still lied, and a young life was cut short because of it. Keith Parkins went missing for 19 hours. He was found alive, but this case is stranger than fiction. Keith was playing outside his grandfather's ranch in Ritter, Oregon in the middle of winter. Although he was obviously dressed for the cold, he was not properly dressed for a long-term stay outside. When it was time for him to come inside, he was nowhere to be found. His family, along with a local search party, set out to immediately look for him, and luckily because of the snow, they had a set of footprints to follow. Until their luck ran out in the strangest way. His footsteps stopped. Just stopped. It wasn't like his footsteps was covered by new falling snow or withered away. It was as if he was snatched out of the sky. Furthermore, there were no other footsteps in the area. Nothing human, nothing animal. It took 19 hours to finally find him, and they found him alive. Although it was a major relief to him and his family, it only raised more questions than answers because he was found 12 to 15 miles away, depending on what source you read, laying face down on a frozen pond with his jacket off. Keep in mind, between his point of disappearance, he would have had to cross multiple bodies of water, fences, and a mountain range. This Survivor Man sneak peek shows a man trying to make the same trip in 19 hours, but not even he, a seasoned pro, was able to make the trip.
This 2-year-old covered perhaps as many as 12 miles.
Even though his story is factual, it was absolutely frustrating trying to find an actual clear-cut story on this, even resorting to other YouTubers whose stories didn't match up. Yeah, after a while, I was starting to get desperate to find the actual truth here. Although this was a major scare for the family, Keith's story is definitely proof you should never give up hope, even faced with the worst possible conditions. This was Alfred Beilharz. He was vacationing with his family on the 4th of July in 1938 with his family at the Colorado Rocky Mountain National Park. His father, William, along with other family members, set up camp outside the park for the first night. The following morning, after William and everyone had woken up, William and Alfred walked over by a nearby stream to wash up. Upstream about 500 feet, a couple of William's friends were washing up also. After everyone was done washing up, they gathered the family and started their hike together, and for safety measures, they hiked in a single file line. Unfortunately, somehow, this wasn't enough. The parents were walking ahead of little Alfred, but being protective, they were checking on him every few seconds. Within about a short span of 6 seconds, William has off Alfred, but within that time, Alfred completely disappeared, even with notable footprints that had just stopped. Everyone searched for him, calling his name, retracing steps, but nothing. No suspicious noise, no animals were nearby, and they claimed to be alone during the hike. Getting desperate now, they called in the park rangers and eventually came along with the local law enforcement. You think that one 4-year-old boy wouldn't be able to go very far. However, in that small amount of time, covering a large area, they just couldn't find any trace of him. The parents informed the rangers that they were walking next to a river, so that's when the suspicion set in that they might have fallen in. It's not saying exactly how far away from the river they were, but the parents were positive that he wouldn't have made it to the river that quickly, but the search parties never ruled out the possibility. After 5 days, a dam was built to try and scoop up any remains, but this was ultimately a failure. They decided to finally bring in the search dogs. Why it took so long, who knows? Maybe overconfidence on day one was to blame. The dogs searched a trail 500 feet up a mountainside, an area that only the most experienced climbers would venture, and then all the dogs just laid down at the exact same time. They refused to move any further. For highly trained dogs, this was extremely suspicious. At the end, they were never able to find Alfred, and eventually the search was given up on. But the story doesn't end there. The most bizarre incident happened on day one. A couple was hiking a few miles away and also 3,000 feet higher than the Beelhertz family. It wasn't a regular hike either. They needed specialized equipment to even reach a part of the area they were in. Not only that, the terrain was extremely rough. The couple was near a giant rock called the Devil's Nest and said when they looked up, they saw a young boy staring back at them and was suddenly jerked back. Although they only had moments to see him, he vaguely matched the description of Alfred. They saw this boy only hours after Alfred had vanished. Whether this was a different boy with another family on top of the Devil's Nest, or if the couple were even telling the truth is unknown. But at the end of the day, a young boy pulled an impossible vanishing act, and no trace of young Alfred has ever been found.